So hi, and welcome to a new series that I'm going to be calling Then and Now. I'm going to be looking at retro characters from 20 or 30 years ago and their modern day equivalents. Now, these aren't going to be one-to-one copies like you'd see in the Star Wars Retro Collection, where it's the same mold, the same figure, and the same card back, but they're going to be a little bit deviations from how they used to look until now. And I'm going to start out with, because I just happened to come across them yesterday, the 1993 Uncanny X-Men Toy Biz Apocalypse and his 2022 equivalent, which was done in a very similar fashion. Now, I couldn't find a one-to-one exact copy. You see this 1991 version of Apocalypse is a different card back, a different style entirely. So I went with the closest thing I could find that had the same kind of coloring here on the front and the back with this little red ribbon thing on the side. This was pretty much the closest I could get to it, but there isn't going to be a one-to-one copy. There's either that black and blue version or this blue and blue version, but nothing is exactly the same, but that's fine. We want to show a little bit of evolution, how we got to this modern version of the character, while keeping what pretty much inspired the look, and I think that this is the closest you're going to come to it. You see on the package here up close, the key difference here in the top corner is you see the villains on the Uncanny X-Men one from Toy Biz, and it's the heroes on the Hasbro one. So that's really the biggest difference, and of course the card art. I shouldn't say the biggest difference, but the card art there. But you look on the back and you see the same stylized ribbon there. But he has characters from the rest of the collection, which Toy Biz did this, showing off the characters. And that I always appreciated that. You get to see what else is in the collection to expand upon. And then we'll switch over here now and look at the Hasbro card. Same stylized coloring, that purple hue with the same logo. But like I said, you have the heroes there. They should have been putting the villains in the corner for a villain one. And then it would also have something like the Evil Mutants written on it as well. But sort of a similar design. And then on the back, you have that red ribbon, serrated ribbon there. But this time you're not getting a look at what else is in the Hasbro line. I think that's a missed opportunity. But they kept the style the same here, pretty much with the the facts about the character and then the logo of the X-Men there. So not too much difference in terms of the design, but a little bit of an evolution or growth here, which is what this segment is about. So why don't we crack into this guy? I know you guys are going to be upset. I'm opening a 93 Uncanny X-Men Apocalypse. But I mean, it's been 30 years and he was only $12 at the comic shop. So he hasn't really grown that much in value. Plus he's pretty dented and beat up. So I'm not too worried about it. This isn't a pristine card. But these guys are awesome, and I don't mind having him. I had him once before, so this is kind of cool to be able to get him again alongside this newer version. So why don't we crack into him and take a look in the name of collecting. All right, I got my trusty knife of unboxing, and I've shown you guys my technique is holding it at a flat angle and then just cutting along in order to preserve the look of the card back. I kind of went around and did that already to save some time here. Didn't want to ruin it. So then you get this nice, sleek card without ruining any of the look and tearing off the glue of the surrounding border there. We always used to get these little trading cards that came with them at the time. This is a two-part scene for Wolverine and Sabretooth. I'll probably have the other part somewhere, so I'll have to dig it out. But these were really cool. I love getting these little cards at the time. That just gave you a little fun reason for collecting the figures in addition to the figures themselves. And I loved about the 90 figures is there's no tie downs for the characters. They just came right out. I mean, I guess people didn't steal them as much back then, or I'm not sure what the fear was of having to secure things in 80 twist ties, but we didn't do it as much in the 90s. Also, probably not a lot of people kept them secured in the packaging as long. We just wanted to open these things. So there wasn't a lot holding them in. There's literally 2 pieces of tape for all these accessories and nothing holding Apocalypse in. So the first thing I'm going to do is attach his little hoses. While I'm doing that, I will give you a close-up 360 here. So you can see the big thing about the 90s characters is they were very muscular. Like overly so, and this wasn't just the X-Men. This was like He-Man, this was Ninja Turtles, even when the Star Wars line came back in Power of the Force 2, everything was overly muscularized, and then it was just the style of the toys at the time. It was also kind of a style of comic heroes. They were just really overdrawn beyond human proportions to show just how much stronger they were. because the powers didn't convey it. But you see Apocalypse here with his little rubber hoses. They connect all the way around to his back. These pop out really easy. As you can see here, if I go through the articulation and I raise the arm, like half the time, well, they're not now, but half the time they would pop out as you're extending the arm, and oh, there it goes. Really annoying to have to keep doing this when you're a kid playing, because it just kind of ruined the look of the character if you did it every single time. But his articulation is he bends at the knees, he would bend at the hips, his arms would move up and down, his body would turn, and his head would turn, and that's it. Like, that's all we had back then. We didn't have a whole ton of articulation. His hands were pretty much fitted that they could only hold certain things. He doesn't have any accessories here that he could hold. These are more designed to go on his arms and replace his arms. I'll show you in a second. But they had little blasters with the other X-Men that would fit inside these handholds. So they were pretty much, you didn't have a lot of options. You had to go with something that fit in there. So switching out the arms, so you could do one or both. I'll do both and show you here. So you could see in this this close-up video, these basically snapped off, and then you would switch them out with the other ones. So as you can see here in the close-up, these arms would attach on the sides, and the hoses will go at the base, and they give you the option of doing one or two. So any way you wanted to mix or match, it would just give you additional attachments for Apocalypse. And he's a guy in the cartoon where he would just always have another arm for the occasion. It was always the right kind of arm. But it just gave you a little bit more options here with the character, because he doesn't have any like guns or anything, and you can't really see his mutant powers. So this was pretty much it. So looking at this here, the one on the right, you get this little blast effect where you can make it shoot it forward to make it look like it's launching. But even though this was the 90s and everything had missiles, and I'll tell you guys this in the other videos I've done, particularly the ones for Rebel Scum, this one didn't launch. It just kind of went back and forth. This claw here opened up and clamped down on its own, so it had this cool little claw effect. That was pretty cool to have this in the character. Just a little bit more fun to be able to grab an X-Man or something like that. And like I said, you could switch the arms out. So if you wanted to do the gun on the one side and then just the normal arm on the other, you could just do it any way you want. Just kind of mix it up. But I liked how they have a little hole in the bottom for the hose to connect just to keep it consistent. But yeah, that is Apocalypse in the 93 line. This was the second release of him. Like I said, the other version, he just had the straight fists, and they extended a little bit. And he came with a bazooka. They had more practical weapons back then. I mean, Thanos had a helicopter, so everyone had something kind of practical at the time, or just more realistic, as opposed to some crazy mutant blaster or something. He just had a bazooka. So that is Apocalypse for the 93 line, and we're going to shift over and look at the 2022 retro-inspired Apocalypse by Hasbro. All right, looking at our other Apocalypse with our Apocalypse here, if that's the plural. Again, I cut this just to save some time. And what I noticed here on this pad, vice the other pad, is it's got like a little bit of layering. There's a second sort of flap in there. I guess that was because this is a little bit bigger than this bubble, and they wanted to create a little more room, so like an extra 1/8 of an inch to fit it on the card back. But then again, you can see here, very similar color schemes between the two cards. So I think this was a pretty good choice, particularly on the back here, for me to compare these two between the two time periods. But let's take a look at Apocalypse here. So just like we had the 93 version, this one is sitting right on top. I just kind of popped them out here so I didn't have to make the crunkling noise in the plastic. But just sitting right on top, no tabs, nothing securing him to it, which I always appreciate because I hate struggling with those. So while I pull out his little tubes here and attach them, I'll give you a nice 360 so you can see up close. Very similar to how the other one is structured. You got these tubes from the waist here, although these have more of an angular bottom fitting to them, so that I think that helps with to keep them from pulling out all the time like we had in that 93 version. So much more appreciated. But you can see he's got a different color scheme than the all blue and light blue. He's got a blue and purple. I kind of like that. He's got a lot more detail on him than the 93, because, you know, that's just where we are in the state of figures right now. They have a ton of detail on everything. and he just looks a little bit more proportionally sculpted instead of just insanely muscular like the '93 version of him. So looking at articulation, well, first you can see the size difference here. This is almost double this guy here. Looking at the articulation, he's still got that head articulation, but now it's on a ball joint, so completely different than the original head. Still bends at the arm, so just a single articulation there, but he also turns the bicep. His hand is also on that little ball joint as well, so that's got a lot more articulation to it. His body doesn't turn side. It does a little bit. I think it turns a little bit side to side. This one had more range of motion, and it had that click. Guess what? He still clicks, but at the abs. So when you turn him there at the ab articulation, he makes the click. So they kept the click consistent, which I appreciate. We had a lot of things click in the 90s and 80s. That was just how they were. He's got this thigh articulation as well as being able to bend his legs, and he's got a double knee joint this time instead of a single knee joint, where they had that separate knee. It's kind of become standard in the industry for these figures. And then he's got foot articulation, which the other one did not have. And there's some detailing underneath the boots. These were just flat, like literally completely flat, not even a peg hole in them. So these, a lot more. These also do have little holes if you had pegs to put him in. So a lot more articulation, a lot more featuring to this version of Apocalypse, and we expect him to grow over time. So he does have some accessories. He has an alternate head, and I'll give you a close-up here. You can see the alternative head. This is more of a frowny, smirking, serious face, and I think it matches almost exactly this Apocalypse you can see here in a side-by-side. As opposed to the one that he comes standard with, which is more of an angry Apocalypse showing some teeth. So two different heads there, and then he comes with fists to replace the open hands, which is more in line with what the original release had, was with the fists. And last but not least, he comes with some blast effects and a little cannon. So I'll give you some close-ups here. You can see what he looks like after we do our little hand test, because I always love doing the hand test on these figures. And this one pulled out pretty easy, just a slight little turn. And this one pops in. So you can see him here with his dual fists, and we even have the serious face on as opposed to the angry face. So well, I guess they're both kind of serious, but this is more of a sullen look that we have with Apocalypse that matches kind of the original figure. So I think this is pretty appropriate. So I think this is a great place to show you back to back how these guys look. So you can see it's pretty much this replica look. So I'll give you a close 360 of back to back. And you can see that this is pretty much replicating the design very, very close in this retro look. The packaging, the features of the character, but much more detailed, much more evolved, much improved, much better. I love the taller size of the character. It just gives you more space to do a little bit more with them, make them stand out. But they still got that A on the waist, and they still got that similar collar and overall structure to the characters, which I think was great. And the only other design feature here, like I said, is he doesn't have multiple swap out arms like the old Apocalypse did, and the whole arm swaps out. What he does have is this gun attachment, which I'm going to put on his right hand here. So I'm going to pull out the hand, and there's a little peg on the inside here, and it sits in, but it doesn't fully sit in, which is a little upsetting. I would like it to sort of like reach over this hose connector here and go all the way in, but that's keeping it from sliding in, and there's no way to take this wrist guard off. As far as I can see, this is kind of like melted onto the plastic. It has a little give, but I don't think you're meant to take it off. Let me see if I can get it. It's not coming. Oh, got it. I was wrong. It does come off, which is good, because you're going to want this to sit all the way back on, and then you could plug in the hose here. So this way he kind of has the same effect as Apocalypse did the figure, although the hose is a little tricky to get in because this is new, breaking it in there. So he would have this kind of effect on him. And I'll give you a close-up here. We'll do his angry face with the hose, with the blaster rather. So you can see he's got that blaster on there. He's looking pretty sharp. And that fits on there nicely with the optional blast effects, however you want to display it. They have a big one there and two small ones to sort of just spruce it up. But that is essentially this version of Apocalypse. Why don't we do a little bit more side-by-side of these two together, just so you could see all the contrasts and similarities between the two. All right, so we went through both our Apocalypses here, and I just want to give you an ending shot, giving you a little bit more compare and contrast. So we have our Apocalypse with his blaster on here, and our Apocalypse with his blaster on here. We're going to do another little back-to-back so you can see the two. And you could see how, you know, one was designed where the entire arm would came off and becomes a completely different biomechanical arm. And this one is just more of a hand attachment that still changes the overall look of the arm. And I think in the end, it really replicates the effect. Again, this is why I feel kind of confident that this was the 93 was the basis for which they made this, Hasbro made this retro figure, having that blaster on the side. We did not get a hook attachment on the left side. A little disappointing, but I don't think it would have changed much in terms of the overall aesthetic of the figure. And we already got some optional hands. We got an alternative head. So I think we got a bunch going on there that really, replicates the look of the original figure. And I'll put his other head here so you get more of a side-by-side closer that way. But yeah, I think that's basically what they were going for, was this look, but a little bit spruced up. Like we said, it's evolved. It's been 30 years. We don't want the same exact figure again. We get this version where he has better paint applications. He's not monotone, or this was really just, this I guess was two colors on this one. And he's just got a lot more going on for him that just makes sense for the time with the extra articulation, extra joints, but still drawing true to that original where we got that clicking in there. That's still here. I love that. I love how they kept the click. And he's still got these pipes, although way less annoying, which is great. That's an improvement. And just better look overall, and I like the larger size. How much larger? Well, guess who's making an appearance? It's Red Hulk! He came back from his Marvel Select line just to show us how much bigger this Apocalypse is. Still not Red Hulk size. I have yet to find a figure that is towering over Red Hulk in any kind of Marvel sizes here, but Red Hulk is just massive. I love Red Hulk. You can watch our Red Hulk video if you want to see more on Red Hulk. But this just gives you an idea of like how much bigger this Apocalypse is in the line. Red Hulk, I don't know how tall he is. I'm guessing around maybe 10, 11 inches. But he's for the 7-inch line, and these Marvel Legends are done in the 6-inch line. So I think Apocalypse stands a little over your average 6-inch figure. But he's not quite Red Hulk size, so he's getting there. But we'll put Red Hulk away. So that's it. This is your look at the Apocalypse then and now. I want to do more of these. I was just kind of inspired by walking around my local comic shop and seeing this toy on the shelf in his package, which was kind of a fun find, and then particularly for $12. It was a great find too. And then this guy right nearby in the Marvel Retro line. So it's fun seeing these just side by side and bringing back and seeing what they've drawn inspiration from in the past and where they've gone with the sort of current evolution of characters and what kind of features you can bring into a modern day equivalent of a retro figure. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I have ideas for a lot more segments like this. I got the next one I'm going to be doing will be a game. I don't want to spoil it. It's an old board game with a modern day equivalent. And then I have some other characters and some other popular lines, maybe Ninja Turtles and whatnot, that will see some retro and some modern equivalents. But I'll keep trying to come up with new ideas. If you guys get anything you'd like to see or have any ideas, let me know. I can always try to make that happen. But I hope you enjoyed this segment. As always, like, subscribe, and follow. We'll have many new things coming in the next month or two. So just keep checking back, and I will see you guys next time.